Go on. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Nick here with Steve Lloyd. Steve's actually my first guest on my official podcast that I'm starting. And I've actually known Steve for 10, maybe even 12 years.
Oh, Nick, it's 12, 13 years now.
Yeah. And I remember meeting you way back at like I think a dig event or some event where you and Jeremy Ritchie was presenting Stream, and I didn't sign up at that time. I think it was Stream, but I saw you take off with it, just like shortly thereafter, and
Yeah.
then even before that, I knew of your raising
Well,
capital.
Nick, you're getting older, so you're lapsing a little bit. We actually met at Gamma Plan, and that was before Stream.
Oh, really? I was
Yeah,
gonna say
we
capital
used
plan
to.
next.
No, I don't think so. I think Gamma Plan was before Stream. It definitely was because I already had my meeting going with somebody, and yeah, Gamma Plan was definitely before Stream.
Okay, so I remember meeting you also at Camel Plan, and you don't know it, but at that event, I listened to your presentation on how you raise money, and you taught me something that I applied to everything I've done in regards to raising money, and that was you said that on your PPMs, your lawyer always wrote that you didn't know what you were doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really when you write a private placement memorandum. It's like 108 pages. You have to disclose everything. And in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. And then if you've never read a private placement, the first 8 or 9 pages, it describes that you're going to lose all your money.
But what I really admire about it was the fact that even though your lawyer wrote this, you kept at it. You didn't change lawyers, and you just you kept at it. Meaning you went out there raising money with that PPM,
Yeah.
and it worked out. And I shortly, like when I was at that event and I heard that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's like something I should be doing. And I actually started raising exactly like that.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful because to me, when I present opportunities for people to invest and I say that on my paperwork, the investors they make a decision. Are they investing in whatever they're investing in? They have to understand it. And two, so it's beyond just, hey, they like Nick, they like Steve. They
Yeah.
understand the opportunity and they understand the risk.
Yeah. If most people just go and ask people for money, and it just doesn't work that way. You have to walk them through the process from the beginning to the end. It's a tough business rehabbing properties where I started out and things like that. But the biggest thing is I would stress to them how I was going to pay them back. Right, that was kind of the most important thing. But I used to have a flip chart. I don't know if you remember from the meetings. I would go and meet people in the beginning, and I would go sit with them, and I would do this flip chart. This is what I did: pictures before, after. Then we got halfway through the project, and I would have that was Temple then. I would have the investor come down to Temple, and I'd show them what was going on. Look, this is what we're doing. I would get them there in person, and I would have lunch with them to tell them my vision. And then it was, the process of paying them back.
Yeah. So that's something that I don't know if you know, but I've learned that, and I've done that throughout the years since then.
Yeah.
All my raises, even after knowing
I think you and about 10,000 other people followed me, and people claim to it. I'm like, I started that Burr shit. I was the guy around that started that stuff. But
I agree, and I can contest to it.
Yeah, because what happened was when I got into the real estate business, all the banks were going out of business. That was in the default. That was in the when we went into a recession, and no banks were doing rehab money. So I had no other choice to go figure it out, right? Whenever we get in a crazy situation, I wanted to do real estate, but banks weren't lending rehab. I mean, they shut down. I don't know if you remember. It was bad.
Right.
And there was only one way: through individual people.
So before we get to this, Steve, so I just want to say, I want to get to know you. I've known you for this like window of time, but I don't know you.
Yeah.
And I know you had a pizza shop, but I want to know Steve back in high school, when he was a kid. How are you at school? How are you at home? And what were your dreams back then?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just you before we started, you wanted to go way back. So I actually have two families. When I was born, obviously my father left when I was 3 months old, and I had I had four other siblings. One has passed away. Still have two sisters and a brother, and I was a mistake, right? They were the closest sibling I have to me is like 14 years. So, but what happened, my mom had to work so much because, dad was a deadbeat, and he didn't help pay my mom any money. So when I was 3 months old, I actually went and lived with my aunt and uncle, Chick and Kay Epperite. And they actually had three daughters that were my cousins that are like my sisters today. So look, we lived on the edge of Chester, Pennsylvania, with a little town called Parkside. So my mom was still fully in my life. I would go with her on the weekends. I would come back to my aunt and uncle, and I ended up going to a decent school district, not top of the line, but it was the middle of the road. And then, on the summertime, I would go with my mom. But my mom had to work 7 days a week. It was old school stuff where she had to fend for her four kids. And but I actually got a normal upbringing. And then, sports became a pretty big athlete in southeastern Pennsylvania. In high school, started playing baseball at a younger age, was really good. Baseball, I started wrestling, I was playing football, and I was very athletically driven in sports, in those three major sports there. And that's where I think I got my competitiveness and my drive, and I didn't want to lose, and I wanted to win, and no one's going to kick my ass. It's just not going to happen. And if it did kick my ass, well, next week I'm going to kick your ass. And that's where, the wrestling and the football came from. And then, look, when I graduated high school, I'm just not, I just wasn't book smart. I actually got a full ride to play baseball at Temple as a pitcher, believe it or not. And I took that, but man, did I hate school. I just hated college. And, I started working at the pizza shop at a very young age, at 10 years old. And I was running the place by the time I was 16, and it was just a corner pizza shop. And at 20, when I dropped out of college, I hated it. I was actually thinking about becoming a state trooper. And then the person that owned the pizza shop said, "Hey, look, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what you're doing," and kind of set me up. And my aunt and uncle lent me $10,000. And a guy named Mitch Scher, who I took to the Bahamas last year on my yacht, he was there, and it was really cool for him to be there. He lent me $10,000. The pizza seller held a note. Believe it or not, at 20 years old, I had a loan from the pizza shop, and then 2 years later, I paid it off. And I was there for a while. I mean, I was there till I think 2004. I went to my first real estate meeting. Is that good for you, Nick? Is that any questions about that?
No, keep going. You're good, Steve.
Yeah. And I needed something competitive because I knew my friends were going to college, and I knew financially they were probably going to kick my ass if I didn't find something to do and some type of education. But, I bought the pizza shop. And the funny thing is, a bunch of my friends were working for me at the pizza shop, delivering pizzas and making pizzas when they were in college for extra money. John Walsh and Rich Helferty and just a slew of my friends were actually working for me. And there, a bunch of 20-year-olds in there running this pizza shop. But I was always a little more mature than most of the people around me. And I knew, I had that drive to be successful. And we all know that it's a journey, and success takes a while. It took me to really create a lot of wealth, right? Crazy wealth. It took, 48 years. There was a time, I was making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, but, it just takes a long time. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. They want instant gratification. They want to flip. They go, I want to flip 50 houses, flip 10 and make good money. Right. Because I feel a lot of people get deluded when they get too big, or I don't want to get off track, but they start building I just was helping a guy yesterday. He's built a $10 million real estate portfolio of duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes. Now he wants to buy apartment buildings like me. And I'm like, why? You've mastered what you've done. Just go to 20 million with what you're doing instead of getting sidetracked, because, the multifamily, the big multifamily that I buy might be a distraction to what you already have a system for. So it's funny. I get that a lot. I'm really successful, but I want to do something else. It just cracks me up. So, in 2004, I just didn't want to expand the pizza. Pizza was starting to get big. When I bought the pizza shop, there was probably 3 or 4 pizza shops in the area. And when I sold, there was probably 16. So there became a lot of competition. And the pizza business was just changing. So, I went to a real estate meeting, and there was, 10 guys sitting around. Real estate's the best. And one guy owned a private jet, and with like 10 other guys. And, I just decided I literally sold my pizza shop. That was February. I sold my pizza shop 3 months later. And I was actually a union truck driver. So I was having a house built in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I had to keep that union job until the house was built, because you need income verification the day before you close. So the day I closed on that house was the day I became a true entrepreneur. And I told the guys at the paper company, the union paper company, my boss, about a month before that I was leaving. And it's kind of funny, we'll go to a couple different places. There was 18 other truck drivers, and we made good money then. I mean, back 30, this is going back 30 years. We're making $25 an hour with 401k and health insurance. And it's kind of funny, there was only one guy that was like, I said, I'm quitting the paper company to go into the real estate business. And only 1 out of 18 really was like, go get them. You're going to be successful with this. I'm happy for you. And the other guys either didn't just give a shit, or they just told me I'm back in sense, right? So we find all kinds of things that motivate us. And then I went into the mortgage business for a little bit. And then I started buying single family houses in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And one thing that I think I want the audience to think about, when I got to about 8 properties, there was this little light went off one night. And I'm sitting there at nighttime, and I'm going, I got a husband and wife. I got 8 properties. So that's husband and wife's 2 people, 16 people. So I was thinking, I'm like, wow, man, I have 8 people that get up every single morning and go to their job to pay for my debt. 16 people that I really don't know go to work, get their paycheck, and once a month they pay for my mortgage debt. And then I'm telling you, Nick, that's where it went off. That's where I went absolutely crazy. And then we went to Temple, and then, had some issues there with some partners there, and that, went astray. But that was a good thing, right? That'll be another topic. When things go bad, is it really bad, or is it good? Because when things go bad, it's usually a good, because shouldn't be in that situation. And then today, can't give you the perfect number, but I have one building that has 980 units in Georgia. So that's 900 units in a big apartment building complex that we bought it for $75 million. And we're probably going to sell it this year. The value is probably about 150 to 160 million. So, today with that, I don't know, I probably have, 1,600, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 people today that get up and go to work for me and come and pay their rent. And then I pay my mortgages with their money. So there's always that light bulb moment that turned me on to real estate in a big way.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
I like it though. I like
actually it. Probably, I'm sorry if I got 3,500 doors, there's probably about 6,000 or 7,000 people that get up and go to work for me every day.
I think the realization of, hey, there's two adults that live here that are waking up every day to pay your mortgage. That's huge, because a lot of times I'm looking at how much money am I making after all expenses, but I'm not, like what you're saying is, look at how much debt they're paying off
Yeah.
for you. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little tip. I'll give everyone a little tip. One, and I've taught this to the couple of people, and they absolutely love it. When I had like 10 or 15 properties, or maybe like 20 properties, I'd get the mortgage statement, and I would make an Excel spreadsheet, and I would put, I owe $100,000, and on column A, I would put the principal. Column B, I would pay the interest. I would look at the interest. So I have an Excel spreadsheet. First column is, top of the column is, I owe 100 grand to the mortgage company. And then I make one column that is what the interest is of that payment and what is the principal of that payment. So back then, I remember when I started doing this, it was a bunch of Temple properties, and I was actually paying down every month $24,000 of principal. Now, it gave me a realization of what I was really making on paper. Now, we were cash flowing a little bit. You know how we cash flow good at a cash flow. It's all bullshit, right? I don't know what I'm going to cash flow. Who's going to pay? Who's not going to pay? What my expenses are going to be. But that was a real number. That $24,000 of principal that I was paying to the bank was the reduction of mortgages that I was gaining every month. So I would have up at the top my total amount of mortgages that I owed. And then I would just take that 24,000, and then I would look out 10 years. I'm a visionary. I want to see where I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years. I always say 5 because that's a good number, but I want to see what my assets are going to look like in 5 years, not today. They are what they are today. I want to know if I'm on the right track. So me and Kerry, my amazing business partner, we always look at 5 years out, where we're going to be in 5 years. We're always looking 5 years out. But that was a really good tool when you were just breaking even on your mortgages and it was tough. And I would look at that number, and that number would go like to, 24,100. Then 3 months later, it would be 24,300. It was growing higher with the reduction of the mortgages that I owed. So that's a pretty good thing to look when you're struggling and things aren't going great. That gave me, $24,000 a month. You look out, that's almost $300,000 in a year. I was paying down these mortgages. So break it down. If you're smaller, you're gaining $10,000 a year. But no matter what you're gaining, you're succeeding.
That's an awesome way to look at it. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
I want to go back a little bit, Steve. I want to go back to your first 8 properties. So when you when you were working the pizza business, you were also working a union job. So you were running 2 incomes already at that time.
Yeah, I was young, making a lot of money. Yep.
Okay. And then, so when you decided to exit the pizza business, it was just, you decided to exit because you just felt like the market was oversaturated.
I was tired.
Okay. You're tired.
I was tired, and I knew I didn't want more pizza shops because of the saturated areas. I mean, there was Domino's, Papa John's was coming in. You had all these big companies coming in with pizza. It was just too much competition. I was a mom and pop shop, and I just knew that I had. It's just so weird. I always knew. I don't know why. I knew I had massive success coming in my life. And I always said, when is it? We always say, when's it going to happen for me, right? But I knew it wasn't through the pizza shop, and I knew it wasn't from the union truck driving job. So, I knew that it could be through real estate because, then I started talking to people. I always talk to people 10, 15 years older than me because they've been through it, right? Dave Van Horn, 10 years older than me, just some great people. And they go, look, you do this, and you'll have this in 10 or 15 years. Now, they didn't remind me to get a big bottle of Advil because there was a lot of headaches on the way. But it's just, having that vision that you're going to get there. Because whatever you choose to do in life, if you stick at it, you're going to get there. Whatever that path may be, but you have to surround yourself with not just the right people, but with the right people within your industry to get to where you want to be. So, guys go to me, I want to buy big apartment buildings like you do. I want to do what you do, Steve Lloyd. Do you want to do what I did to do what I do? Right? It's not easy to get to where we are. It was hard. But if you're going to go buy big multifamilies like I do, 150, 250, 500 units, then you got to go hang out in circles where guys buy 100, 200, 300 units. And that's all the topic of conversation. That's all you're going to talk about. Then you're going to learn that, 60, 40 splits, to, 60 the investor. You're going to learn the cap rate. You're going to learn, there's so many cool things. But, to generalize, that's the greatest thing about real estate. You can do 100 different things. I own millions of dollars of second mortgages from 8 years ago. That world faded away, right? Remember all the note conferences? But I had a vision. I knew that they weren't going to last because they stopped writing second mortgages. So I knew that I had to continue on and dabble all in real estate related. But, Nick, the biggest thing I learned, I sit there and I go, I'm driving around and there's a bank on every single corner. Sometimes there's 4 corners and there's a bank on each corner. Why? Let me tell you guys something. Because everybody needs money. Everybody is looking for loans. The richest guy on I just lent some guy who's very wealthy, paid $4 million cash for a house, and guess he called me for money. So I go, the light bulb goes off again. Everybody needs money. So when I went from Temple to using other people's money to build my rehabs, then people started asking me for loans. We did $30 million in loans last year. 4 points and 12%. Every single time someone tells me I can't do something, I absolutely do not listen. And I did it. Everyone tells me, well, all the hard money lenders are 2 and 10. They're 2 and 12. Okay. Well, those people that go to them aren't my people, right? You run your credit. They're going to put you, they're going to give you a colonoscopy, right? Me, I don't even run your credit. I create relationships who I lend with. I keep my circle tight because I know them really well. The Fuquans of the world. One of my best friends, a couple other guys, but I got to the point where I don't even lend 200,000 anymore. How am I going to make the big money, Nick? How am I going to grow? If you stop growing, you're not breathing anymore. Where you are, where you're going to be next year. So I started doing $2 million loans, $4 million. My last 2 loans were $8 million a piece. Try that math at 4 and 12.
Yeah, that's crazy. So Steve, all right. So back to the reason why I'm pointing out the fact that you sold your shop because you saw that it was so oversaturated. I think you have like an eye for seeing things when it's like, hey, this game or this game is over. This investment opportunity is over. And
you know what it is, Nick? You know what it is, Nick?
What's that?
It's common sense.
Yeah.
Look, if you ask me to read Moby Dick, I ain't coming back with all the answers. If you give me calculus shit, it ain't happening. But I'm going to tell you what time the sun's coming up and what time it's setting. I'm going to tell you what kind of loan you should get. I'm going to tell you numbers don't lie. Right. People force numbers in the real estate world. I don't listen to people. Show me what you've done. It's common sense what I'm doing. I'm telling you, I keep it so simple. When I talk to people and they ask me questions, I'm like, wow, that's simple. I'm like, all you need is simple. Yeah. All I want is a 10 to 12% rate of return on my own money for a lifetime. And I'm richer than rich and I'm a multimillionaire. Right. But these guys chase these 18 and 20% returns. And it is a gut feeling that I am. I do have that gift. But it's really having common sense what you think will work and what won't work. But I can tell you one thing that never lies. And that's when you put numbers down on a sheet of paper. And it's funny, Nick, I remember, rules of thumb, lending at, 85. Remember the banks went from 65% lending to 80 to 90, and they were doing no docs at 100%. They got their ass kicked, right? Because they changed their strategy. When I lend at 65%, it's nice and simple. It's a best way to not get in trouble. And that's why I'm saying I keep it very, very simple.
So all right. So after you sold the shop, you bought your first 8. Like, was that after attending the RIAs? Did you raise money to buy those? Did you get financing to buy? How did you How did you take advantage of those first 8?
Yeah, my whole model's always been, even from the beginning, because Dave and a couple guys that I knew, it was always a strategy of create equity, never buy equity. So I very rarely, one time, I think on my smaller projects that I do today, I put down money. Usually it's, find something that I can, and I'll give you an example of my Lido property I just bought. It is, those first 8 properties were distressed. They were the back of the days. I just sold those properties like 9 months ago. I had them for 15 years. My first 8 I rehabbed, I just sold. But that was basically like, purchase a 50, 60, put 20 into it. They were worth 100. And, I used somebody else's money. But I secured them.
Since day one.
Day one. It started out that way. Yeah.
Awesome.
1 or 2 guys. Well, Dave Van Horn was buying properties with credit cards. And he goes, hey, this is how it went. Dave wasn't even raising capital. He was using his credit cards in Upland. He would take one credit card to use a $30,000 person, to use the other credit card to do the rehab. Then he would get the tenant in there. And then he got the lease. Then he went to the bank and refied and paid his credit card back. And he'd go buy another house with a credit card. But I just didn't have $50,000 and $60,000 credit card. I was much younger than Dave. No offense, Dave Van Horn. I love you. But, I went to my best friend. I went to my best friend and he lent me 40 grand and another guy lent me 30. And they just didn't want to do the work, and they just wanted a rate of return. And it's funny, as I get older, I'm still buying properties, but I have a lot of money on the street. I love being the bank. But, that's when you go back to the first 8 properties, that's what I did. And, somebody came to me and said, hey, let's do student housing. Would you like to be my partner? That guy ended up being good and bad. But we went and built a huge, we went and would just, at Temple, it was row homes. It was lots. I remember a lot would cost like $100 grand. I'd go get a private investor. They'd give me $100 grand for that. I remember I needed $230,000 to build that duplex. I'd go get that. I knew the property would appraise for $450,000 if I put 8 tenants in it. It'd be a duplex. First floor would be 4 rooms, 4 students. Upstairs would be 4 rooms, 4 students. And I knew I wouldn't go over 200. I know the numbers to a T. I wouldn't go over 338,000. I can remember 450 grand. If you do 75%, that's 338.5. And I don't have a calculator, but that's from 15 years ago. And Conestoga Bank loved us because they weren't lending rehab money, but they still want to do loans. And I used my private investors. Once I got the kids in there, they signed the lease. The parents signed the lease. I went to Conestoga. I was getting bank loans and no one else was getting bank loans because of the strategy that I had. And we went on to build 60 buildings at Temple. And it's kind of funny how life changes. I'm getting ready to sell my last one. I got one left.
So Steve, I gotta go back. I gotta go back to the 8 properties. So you were raising money since day one. Like, that's scary, right? Well, it's scary for it's scary for like normal people to do that, because you didn't like. Did you work on the houses? How did you get the?
Hell no, I can't even hold a hammer. So I was in charge of dealing with the banks, dealing with our investors, accounting, dealing with the bookkeeper, and my partner at that time was in charge of the construction and building the project. And then we had another partner that was in charge of leasing them up. So it was
that was day one.
That was after the 8 properties.
Okay, well, what about the 8 properties? Like, how did you, like, when you were raising money for those, did you work on those? Or
No, I always, one thing, look, one thing I learned early is I'm not good at construction. I don't have that mind, but I'm always been good at money and managing money. So, I think one of the most important things in life, whatever business you're going to have, it's the management of money that'll create your success. You can have the greatest slice of pizza, but if you can't manage money, you're not going to get anywhere. Right. That's why most smaller business go out of business, because they can't manage money. They got a great product, they got a great service, but they don't know how to manage money. They never factor in taxes and stuff like that. So no, I did not do any of it, and I've never done it. No.
So do you think you learned that through the pizza business, or were you always a numbers person even prior to that?
I think some of it I was learned by the pizza business, but I've always been a very good delegator. So in the pizza business, you create a system, right? You make the dough the night before, it goes in the refrigerator. I had my dough maker, and then it goes in the refrigerator. It should stay in the refrigerator for 12 hours, and then everything's a system, right? You stretch out the dough, you put it in the pan. You put sauce on it, then it goes to the next spot. You put cheese on it, then it goes to the next spot. You put the toppings on, it goes in the oven, right? But I needed my bookkeeper. I needed the construction guy. You needed your team. I've always thought that you needed a team. I don't want to get off track. So that's where that kind of came from. My job was to raise money, take care of accounting, and I had to learn. Kerry taught me a lot about accounting, but I had to bring the money. The money's the most important thing. You can't buy shit without money. So I really mastered that. But no, I was never involved in the construction part of it, and I never have been, and trust me, I never will be.
No, I thought that's like amazing and admirable that you could, that you were able to say that and get it done.
Yeah.
So first 8, you were always raising. That was your job. That was your partnership in the 8 deals. Was it like? Did you have how did you do the split back then, where it was fair for everybody, or was it like long-term holds?
I missed you I lost you for a second. With the split between partners?
Yeah, because I think that's like a big thing that everybody always is held up on. Like even with a lot of people I know, even when I give advice to people on how they can just raise and just do that, like they always are stuck on the split.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big problem. It comes down to my opinion on that. Back then, it was 50-50, and that became a problem. But it's like, who's doing the work and what's the work worth? And that's what you have to figure out. Not every, in 1 second, I'll tell you this. You have to be honest. Everybody has to be honest, but we all think we're worth more than what we're owed. And when we're working, we think we deserve more. And that usually comes into a big problem. It's called fair exchange in LLCs because, when you have 2 or 3 partners, you got to make sure everyone's trying to do an equal amount of work. And there's not always an equal amount of work. I know my partner then, he was doing a lot of construction, rightfully so. I was raising the capital, and then I didn't have to do a lot. So he had a lot of animosity towards me because he didn't feel that I was working, but he didn't realize that, when he was home at nighttime, I was at Camel Plant.
Right.
I was at people's houses. Saturday, I was out meeting people because people work during the week. I had to go meet people on Saturday and Sunday in the beginning, right? But for me, I don't think you can create, and look, it's hard to understand what is massive wealth, right? I think I'm pretty wealthy today. But I couldn't see it when I was doing $200,000 and $300,000 deals, right? I couldn't. You could go, I want to be worth 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. But you can be worth 30 million, and it's kind of hard to comprehend that, right? But my point I'm trying to make, I didn't go to a really big another level until I started to have more partners. Because if you look at any big Apple, Microsoft, it's tons of partners, shareholders. There's a ton of people that have a piece of these companies, right? And when I went into when Brian called me for, well, it was actually Chip that called me for my first deal. It was partners. 60% partners were investors, and then me and Chip would split up the other 40%. And that all came about. He got paid for managing, right? I didn't get paid for managing because I wasn't managing. He raised capital, and he got paid for raising capital. And then I got a portion of that 40 for raising capital. So I don't think it's right for, if Chip's managing, that I get paid for managing, because I'm not managing. And when I do, there's 2 or 3 guys I do business with because I like them and I think they're sincere and they're kind of remind me of myself. And I tell them, if I put up the money for a deal and they're running the deal, they're collecting the rents, they're processing, they're going to get paid a management fee. You got to get paid, man.
So that was an example of an apartment complex.
What I just talked about, yeah, that's the 60-40 split. We give 60 to the investor. The general partners get 40. But my point is, don't be scared to partner. It's just you have to vet the right person, because, look, I went from buying $300,000 and $400,000 deals. I really don't buy anything under 50 million now, unless it's, me and Tony just bought, he built it. It's a little different situation. He built it. Him and his wife wanted to be partners with me. So I financed the build and everything, and then we kept it. But really, on my true stuff, it's 50 million and up.
We're going to get there.
All right.
Let's go back to the 8. All right.
Oh,
so actually, we're done with the 8.
I feel like I'm rehabbing the 8 properties again. Go ahead.
The reason why I think I'm so on them is because it's I mean, you did like really high level things right off the bat. You went from, hey, you went straight into raising, and
yeah, because thank God the banks were not lending.
When was that exactly?
That was 2006, probably 2007.
Okay, so that was like during that time when the market was crashing.
Yeah, we had all the bank fraud. Yeah, we had the bank fraud.
So let me ask you that: how difficult? Like, how did you raise when people were like, "Oh my God, real estate market's falling"?
Educated them. Like I said earlier, educated them. I said, we're going to buy value. We're going to buy distress. I'm going to create equity. This is what your security looks like. I'm not going to over raise for the project. And look, that's why, these guys that want instant gratification, I just tell them to, just stop it. You're creating something, you're building something over a long period of time. It doesn't come this fast, and everyone gets frustrated. I tell everybody, no matter what business you go into, it takes 5 to 6 years to create a real business, a real company. It takes that long. Everything needs to be nurtured. So, and I've always gone steady as it wins pace. I don't make many mistakes today. But back then with the 8 properties, it was, some of the guys I took there, I had to really walk them through the process and show them the security, and I guaranteed the mortgages. So if I was the default, they could not only take back the house, they could also come after me personally. And I remember speaking, this was like 13 years ago. I said this to like a couple hundred people. This guy, I'm not giving them personal guarantees. And I'm like, why not if you're going to pay them back? I mean, you owe this person, the person that's giving you money, your responsibility is to pay them back, right? You're taking their college money, their vacation money, their retirement money. You're supposed to pay them back. So, and I think, it comes to personality too, right? My personality a little bit. I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably a couple thousand people that have come and visited me here in Sarasota and Siesta Key and helped me live my best life. I'm a pretty authentic guy, right? I mean, there's really no bullshit. with me. I think everything it is what it is. These introverts that try to like calculate everything out. I'm like, no, I'm the meat and potato guy. So, but yeah, I mean that's how we did it with the first 6 or 7.
So you act like I've been through this where some investors are like, Nick, they want me to show them the property, walk them through the experience, like that. And so you did that. You did that.
I think what you really have to show them is, this is what I had that flip chart. I can see the flip. You're bringing back memories. It's amazing. I had that flip chart. Here's the shell. This is what it's going to cost to purchase. This is what the HVAC, the electricity, the carpet, the wood, the new walls, the appliances. This is what this is going to cost, right? So now we're up to 60. Now we're up to, 85. We'll call it 90, 30 grand. And then, hey, I'm going to put a tenant in there. But what I would show them that property now has a value of 130 because then I show them comps in the area, what I bought it for, what I put into it, how much I put into it when I put the tenant in there, what I'm going to cash flow. But then the more important thing is, what is the after repair value? 130. Then how am I going to pay you back? I'm going to go to the bank. And I think you really need to have, today we're using the internet. I really think you have to have a flip chart or some way to go. It's not just, hey, give me money. Will you lend me money? Hey, could I show you a possibility that we could somewhat partner on a deal? I can find properties. Here's what I'm really good at. And you can be my bank. And I'm going to walk you through the situation. And you have to walk them through it and show them. I get it all the time. The guys call me up. People IM me and go, hey, can you lend me money on this deal? I don't even know who they are. Like I text them back and go, what's your name? And because of the way they did it, my name's Sean. Sean, no, I'm not going to lend you money. Because it was completely unprofessional the way they did it.
Right. So what were the rates any cheaper than hard money back then, or were hard money not lending either at that time?
No, all the hard money lenders went out of business. They all went upside down. Man, you forget. All the hard money lenders got their ass kicked.
I didn't qualify to lend to borrow 40,
yeah, that market dropped 40, 50%.
Right.
I mean, but that's why did they get in trouble?
Right.
Because I lend at 65. They over leveraged. Just be consistent. People come to me, not today anymore, because I don't lend on low amounts. But when you are the bank, okay, people come to me for 100 grand. I'm like, no, I'll lend you 65. Go get the 35 somewhere else. It's not my problem.
Right.
And they all get little. And then I go, hey, you know what? Your wife's got to sign. Well, my wife's not in the business. My wife's a nurse. Well, I'm not lending you the money unless you're worth it's nice because if you're both not on the title of your owner occupied, I can't come after you personally and take your property. And then they tell me no. And then the next day they call me and they tell me yes. Wife changed her mind. Right. So, you have to set the value. I set the terms. I'm the bank, right? And when I set the terms and I don't change those terms, and that goes with everything in life, right? Girlfriends, boyfriends, wives, we all have to have our, restrictions on what we do and what we're happy with. And I just don't change. It's simple. Here's my process. Take it or leave it. Just like everyone told me that I couldn't get 4 and 12 all day long. They told me not to buy my yacht because I never owned a boat before. Right. Everything's going to break down. And I'm like, you know what? It breaks down. I fix it, but I want to live on a boat. And then if a year goes by and I don't like living on the boat, I'll sell the boat. But if I don't buy the boat, I'll never know 10 years from now.
So Steve, so after the 8, you went into student housing. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're playing the same role. You're still the raiser. That's all you do. You manage books. You're the raiser. You had a partner that managed acquisition and construction. At what point did you, because I believe you were doing like privately held loans for the first 8?
Oh, yeah.
At what point did you transition to doing, I guess, a PPM or a fund?
Well, that was at the end of Temple. So when I felt that we were saturated, I mean, we had like 450 students at Temple. And I just felt that we had enough there. And then a bunch of stuff that I can't talk about. Me and my partner had a horrible breakup. He left. I took over everything. He put me put me $2.5 million in debt. And I had to move on from Temple. It was done. And I didn't even know what I was going to do. But that's when me and Dave Van Horn opened up PPR, Partners for Pain Relief, with Dave and John. But I still, that wasn't a good fit for me. So I only stayed there. They bought me out after like 6 months. But all those, well, I couldn't be partners with 3 guys at that time of my life. They had a different vision than I did. Yeah. Dave wanted 30, 40 employees. I wanted 3 employees. So I had a different vision. So it was great. Me and Dave have been lovers ever since. So, so what happened was I left, and then 3 months later, Dave called me and needed $4 million for a note pool. This is how Stone Bay was started.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was a train wreck. Dave called me and said, "Hey, I need $4 million. Can you send me some of your investors?" I said, "No, I'm not going to send you any of my investors." I said, "I'll open up a company, and my investors are going to come through my company, and then I'll give you the money and I'll make an arbitrage off it." And he goes, "Okay." So then 5 months later, we met a bunch of times, and Stone Bay Holdings was formed.
Wow. So, and this is when you were in a state of a train wreck, like you said.
Oh, partner left, $2.5 million in debt. It was bad. I owed all my investors. You kind of remember, it was a horrible situation. And, fortunately, a previous lender that I had paid him back 6 months earlier. He just called me up out of the blue. "Hey, you want to go to lunch?" I'm like, "All right." And he took me to lunch, and I was really going under. I'd already called my investor. I'd already called the banks. And we go there, and he's like, "Hey, I just sold my company for millions, and I want to lend money like I did to you 6 months prior and before." And I said, "Look, I can't take your money. I'm going under." And he goes, we sat there for 3 hours. He couldn't believe it because he really liked me. And he's like, "How much do you need to stay afloat?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Probably about, I don't know." I'm just off the top of my head. I said a number, 1.5. I didn't have anything in front of me. And 2 weeks later, there was a knock at my door. God's honest story. Knock at my door. He showed up at my house with a $1.5 million check and saved my life.
That's incredible.
It's totally insane, incredible. I wouldn't lend anybody $1.5 million if they were going under. But you know why, Nick? Because he believed in me. Because I always do the right thing when no one's looking. And when I did have financial problems, I went to everybody and told them. I didn't stick my head in the sand. I never fucked nobody. And all those people are paid back today. And it's amazing. And then the craziest thing is how I got out of it is we went about 4 more years of just moseying along. I'm looking at the numbers. Oh my God. Yeah. Someday we'll be, someday we'll be okay. But we were okay. We were stable. And then it wasn't my first apartment deal, but Brian Adams called me and said, "Hey, I got a deal in Georgia. $27.5 million. Here I'm buying $500,000 deals, right?" And Brian calls me. He wants to buy a $27.5 million deal. He's like, "Well, you put up $10 million." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't do that. I'm barely breathing here. I'm treading water." I ended up putting up $5.5 million. We bought it for $27.5 million. We put $2 million into it. 12 months later, we sold it for $41 million.
Wow.
The day my life changed forever. And on that closing day, it was such a surreal day because I've never done anything like that. I make 50 grand. I was like, had pom-poms cheering, right? But to make 5 million on one deal and to go all this pain and suffering. And I like to tell this part of it because today my life is surreal to the other side, right? I mean, I live on a yacht. I'm traveling the world, like seriously, doing big deals and with good people. Have all this real estate in Siesta Key. But I just want other people, you know, and I always say in my posts, you know, never, ever give up, ever. It's just a matter of time that it will turn for you. You just can't give up. And, but, you know, Brian came to me because, you know, we didn't know each other that well, but he had respect for me. And, you know, then we went on to buy 2 more big ones, and Chip Lever started calling me, and I started buying. We bought a bunch with him. We were buying an apartment building, you know, back 5-6 years ago. We were buying one every 3 months. And actually we've been selling. So, you know, common sense, right? Everyone was still buying 6 and 9 months ago, right? And I'm telling them, hold 30%. You see my post. Hey, hold 30% cash. Don't buy Bitcoin at 60,000, right? I just bought Bitcoin at 16,300. I don't even know what the hell it does, but I think it's so. You know, it's common sense, right? We're 2%. Like, we'll talk about common sense for a second. Interest rates are at 2%. That can't last for a lifetime. That can't last more than 2 or 3 or maybe 5 years, right? A year ago, we were living in a world that so much money was pumped into the system. And I started selling, and we sold at the right time. And we made more millions over the past year and a half. But that was just a gut feeling of common sense. There's no strategy or book that taught me. It just told me that interest rates are 2%. This market is crazy. And people are taking leverages and supplemental loans and all this stuff to bring in a supplemental loan because the apartment building's going up. So they want, they're going to get their ass kicked, man. I'm telling you, in 9 months to a year, the apartment building world is going to look different. And we are sitting on a phenomenal amount of money, and I'm going to go in and buy it up. And right now I'm just living my best life. But it's patience, right? Patience. You got to be patient. I've been, it's been, I'll be waiting almost a year and a half before I bought another apartment building. But the time will come. The time will come when it's my time. It's not my time right now, but it will come. And I got guys call me, and it's hard as an entrepreneur. You want to go in there and buy, man. This is what I do. But if you study Warren Buffett, he sits there and waits. That guy's going to live to 150. Plenty of time to wait, right? But he just sits there and watches. When 99 people go, they're buying, he ain't buying. And that's kind of the way I do it.
That's great. Oh my goodness. You gave us so much value just now, Steve. It's so crazy. Because I was going to ask you, like, what direction you think the market is going over the next 9 months to a year and a half? And you said it already.
Yeah, look, well, I mean, there's all different facets of the market. There's different areas. I live in Sarasota, Florida. There's Lido Key and Siesta Key, which probably won't get hit that hard because it's a very wealthy area. But look, you got to have a yin and a yang, right? You can't all go up. I just don't feel the stock market has been beaten up enough. We haven't had any capitulation in the stock market. We've had a steady downturn, but the Dow's only down 10%. Yeah, tech, because of higher interest rates, are down 30%. But you haven't had the fire sale yet. I'm waiting for the fire sale. I want the fire sale where it's down 40 and 50. I don't want to buy the Dow right now. It's down 10. I'm not touching the Dow right now. I'm a dollar cost average guy. I've got some stocks, but real estate's my game. But I think apartment buildings are going to be there'll be better value in 9 to 12 months. I think the supplemental loans, the interest rates going up are help because those loans are variable. And I just think be patient, but also at the end of the day, right? I'm not telling people to stop buying because there are deals out there. There's always deals, right?
Right.
What I say earlier, numbers don't lie. If you go into a deal today, right, just lower your numbers a little bit, right? Go, look, this was my numbers, what I would buy at maybe a year ago, but let me turn that back a little bit, right? Let me just dial it back a little bit and see if the deal can work with these numbers. And if they work, right now I would price in a 10% drop, maybe in rents, if the numbers work here today, drop back 10% on your rent on the value of the property. And if it works, then go in and buy it. But I can tell you, Nick, I just want people to buy. I can't tell you how many properties have me and you own where we didn't cash flow. Right? But over time, the tenants are paying down your mortgages, right? You got $100,000 mortgage, 10 years, they're going to pay down maybe 30 grand, 25 grand. And then if everything's flat today over a 10-year period, we'll be up 20% in the market. That's the greatest thing. You go open up an ice cream store and you go out of business, you're out of business. You go buy a piece of real estate, you just got to wait.
Right?
It's going to come back. We know it. How do we know it? Because history has told us it will.
Right.
So those 8 properties weren't worth shit before COVID, right? People go by and, wherever in Jersey and they're going, it's going to appreciate. Well, I never really saw Section 8 properties appreciate in those areas because it's not great. But they've even appreciated. Me and Fuquan made a crap load of money in low income areas. I don't buy those areas anymore, but my point is, when I meet someone that's 30 years old, go just keep buying. That's all I did, Nick. I just kept buying. Some of the times I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but it worked out pretty well.
So after the Temple experience, you were still doing privately held loans at that time. You were still raising single individual loans. You weren't doing funds yet.
No, not at Temple, no.
And then after that, teaming up with Dave Van Horn, him buying you out, and then him reaching out to you, asking for you to help him invest.
Yeah,
that's when the fund idea was born.
Well, that's where my life changed. Dave gave me the idea because I went and hired a securities attorney. If anybody ever starts raising capital, you need a securities attorney that tell you the laws. You just don't ever do everything right. So when Dave did that and he borrowed the money and I, lent him the money back then it was 18 and I was paying like 10, right? I was making an 8% spread on $4 million. Our company was instantly profitable, right?
Right.
8% on 4 million. That's 80. That's 8160, 320. Instantly profitable. Just 2 people, me and Carrie. Right.
So you met Carrie already at this time.
Yes, Carrie was actually working with me at Temple and stuff as our bookkeeper.
Oh, so okay.
Then the light bulb went off. I go, wow, that was easy. I have access to money. All I need is another Dave Van Horn. Right? Let me go find another Dave Van Horn. And I went and found another 2 guys out of San Diego. I met them at an event in Vegas. They asked me for $2 million. I gave them $500. That actually turned into giving them $5 million. We became partners. Then you guys all mostly know Fuquan. We met. We started doing business together. And then it turned out to be about 12 people that I kind of had the same model, right? I had 3 guys in the note world that were going to finding notes. I was funding the deals, right? I started lending money to 6 guys. And then I've become partners with 3 guys that buy apartment buildings. And there's only one thing they call me for: money. That's all I'm good for, Nick. That's all I'm good for.
So it's like that's the thing I noticed about you, Steve. Like, I've always known you as the money person. I've always wondered, did you know how to look at notes? Did you know how to look at apartment buildings? You know what I mean?
I've never been to my apartment buildings. I've never done the numbers on the apartment buildings. I've never done a note workout. It's hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you didn't.
My biggest apartment building's worth $150 million, and I've never been to Stone Mountain, Georgia. That's where it is. And I've owned 3 apartment buildings there, and I've never been there.
So 2 questions. One is, how did you raise money for a fund? Like, how did you pitch that? And then number 2, how is it that you're able to operate without knowing how to do the workouts on notes or ever looking at the properties?
Because Corey and Lars were my strategic partners. they were in the banking business. They knew how to do note workouts, and they knew how to evaluate note purchases. And not many people know Corey and Lars. They were very quiet. They didn't go to all the shit show of all the events and Noteworthy and all that crap. So look, remember, everybody do what they're good at.
Right.
Corey and Lars were good at. Corey was actually good at evaluating the pools. Lars was good at doing the note workouts, and I was good at raising the capital. Perfect marriage.
Right.
And Carrie was good at Carrie was really good at she did all the accounting.
Yeah.
And then I just found another Corey and Lars that knew the note world. Right. I did some business with Joe Roberts.
Right.
I made money on a couple pools. I bought a whole portfolio of real estate with Joe down in Puerto Rico. So it's kind of cool how I'm set up. I end up in different aspects because I don't have to master how to do a rehab or buy an apartment building or work out a note. I just have to master what I'm good at. And that's management of money and raising money.
I think you're also good at kind of like working with people at the right pace, meaning like you're going to work with somebody with a reasonable amount, but initially, and then you're also securing it in a safe manner. So that way, if it doesn't work out, you're going to be able to recoup a lot, if not all, the money back.
Yeah.
But if it does work out, you're like, here's more money.
Yeah. Well, look, today I can sit with somebody. This is fun. I can sit with someone and I can listen to them, and I'll know within 3 minutes whether they know what they're doing or not. It's very easy. I'll talk to them about a rehab, or I'll talk to them about a bank, or I'll talk to them and they'll give me answers. And I know within minutes whether they know what they're doing or not. I was on a phone call the other day. A lot of people reach out to me. I can't talk to everybody one-on-one, but one guy called me. It was actually 2 weeks ago. Guy called me, wanted me to get involved with him. I knew in 4 minutes that I wasn't getting involved with him. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. It was pie in the sky shit. And I cut it, man. I'm like, dude, you come back to me in 5 years. Go figure it out. Right. I don't have time to teach him. I don't have time to do that, right? Much bigger level today. Talked to a guy yesterday. Probably going to do business with him. I knew within 5 minutes that I would do business with him. So, it's all, don't force who you do business with. It's got to be right. So many people force stuff. Now, my life is definitely different today, but look, I learned from older people. I want people to learn from me. I want them to learn how hard it is. I want them to learn they got to do the right thing. I want them to do the right thing when no one's looking. I want them to pace themselves. You don't have to own 50 properties in a year. If you're in this business and you're 30, 33 years old, think about this. I'm talking to these guys. These guys were envying me yesterday, right? Steve Lloyd, we heard all about you, all our channels. Your name comes up everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. Think about it. I said, guys, you guys are kicking my ass. You guys own like $10 million worth of real estate and you're 31 years old. I didn't even get into the business until I was 36. I said, you guys are kicking my ass. So, I talked to them for like an hour. Now, why did I talk to them for an hour? Because I thought they were good guys. I thought they're doing the right thing. I think they're on the right path. And I could shut down the call in 10 minutes or me, Nick. I don't mess around. So I could shut that down in 5, 10, or I talked to them for a little bit over an hour yesterday. And look, you having me on, my passion is helping people. I want everybody, I want everybody to have joy and happiness in their life. Look, I remember you told me to go to Tony Robbins 10 years ago, and I laughed you. I said, I'm not going to that guy. Rah! I'm not going to listen to some guy. I just went to Date with Destiny. I went to Business Mastery 1 in Vegas. I went to Business Mastery 2. I mean, the guy's so real. The guy's he's so authentic. He gets it, and it's simple. I listen to Tony every single day. Every single day. I mean, I took 10 people to Business Mastery 1. I took 16 people to Business Mastery 2, and I was overseas. And then I really didn't want to take a whole lot of people to Date with Destiny because I really want to focus on that. So I think I took 10. I took 10 people. And then we had our Gladiator Summit a year and a half ago, which there's like 300 people that want to come that, and I only let 15 come. So I think I'm getting ready. I think I'm going to do another one. I met some guys the other day. The one guy he's like, you got to do another one. I'm like, I'm living my best life. I don't have time. But you know how it is to put an event together with food and breakfast, lunch, dinner, staying overnight. It's a lot of work. So, but I think we're going to do another one. But, I've learned some stuff from you, I don't have that sleep until 12 down yet. So I haven't made that. I'm up at 4:30 every morning. Come on, what's your next question? What do we got?
Yeah, so back to the fun thing. Like, how did you raise money for the fund? How do you present that?
Yeah, we can't get into that because we don't do general solicitation. So
got it.
We'll come back. We'll have another conversation, and I'll teach that. If you want me to come back on in like 4 months, I'll be able to talk about it.
Okay.
But I'm really against the law to talk that. I don't,
Got it. So let's talk about this. You kind of went into it already by because one of your talents that I see is you identify the right operators to work with. And you said it just now that you can tell a person is good or not, or they know what they're doing or not in under like 3 or 4 minutes, right? Once you have that person identified, are you doing small amounts of money in the beginning to see?
Yeah, my goal. Yeah, usually depends who they are. Well, it depends who they are. It depends what the asset looks like. It depends. Look, I just lent somebody $4 million, but they had a house that was they had a house. Look, it's all. I'm good at structuring stuff too, right? So they had a house that was paid off that was worth $4 million. So they took $4 million from me. I put $2 million on that house at 50% loan to value, and then they had 2 other land pieces, which I don't lend on land, but I did $1 million on one of the land and $1 million on the other land. And the only reason I did that, even the value of the one land is worth $5 million, I needed my backup because what the hell am I going to do with raw land? Right. So I called one of my friends. His name's Chris Levins. I called him. I said, if this guy defaults on me, would you want to come in and be the builder or buy the land from me? And he said, absolutely. I love that piece of land. So see how it, it's just not about lending the money. It's get the asset. What are you going to do with it? I don't really want to lend money on an asset that I wouldn't want to own myself. So when, somebody calls me from buttfuck, Missouri or Wyoming, I'm not going there. So I'm not going to lend money there.
I get it. That's smart. So what's next for you, Steve? What's next for the next?
I basically, the story with COVID was I came to visit my properties in Siesta Key. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you there, Nick?
Yes.
Okay. So I came to visit my properties 2 weeks before COVID, it was really when I flew in here, it was just to check on my properties.
Right.
And then so I was here for a little bit, and about the 8th day I was here, we went into lockdown. And I was a piece of shit. I was overweight, enabler. I was like 310 pounds, horrible. And the 7th day, there was nobody here. Nobody. Everyone left Siesta Key. When I tell you there's probably 10,000 people on the key right now, when COVID started, there was probably under 150 people. So I went and bought a bike, started bike riding. 35 days later, I lost like 35 pounds, no shit. And then I decided I wasn't leaving Siesta Key. And I said, you know what? I had just asked my wife to leave about 6 months before that. And that's where my best life came from. I lost about 60 pounds and I go, I'm going to live my best life. And then literally I stayed all the way till September. I flew home. I gave everything in my house away to charity. And I drove back in my car. That's all I brought. That's all I brought. I said, I'm going to start a new life. And I got down here. And then about 6 months later, through that time, I was looking for my dream house on the Intercoastal. And I saw an ad for the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. Never owned a boat. I never even owned a rowboat. like never, nothing. And ended up going to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show and bought a yacht. And I've been living on a boat for 2 years. So, there was a lot of reflection time in there. I know a lot of people that got sick and died from COVID. I actually just had it over Christmas for the first time in 3 years. It was brutal. I was in bed for 6 days, so I don't wish it upon anybody. It's still, you heard me cough a couple times. It's still not totally gone. But creating, we all here create a legacy, but, Carrie and I are, building houses down in Ensenada for less fortunate people. They cost about $20,000 house. We just did a couple. We're going to do more charity work, but, I don't know how far I want to, build up a bigger and bigger company, right? I'm really happy where I am. I love my freedom. We're going to build it up a little bit more. But we're doing really well. And I want to travel the world, and I said it earlier, when you stop dreaming, you should stop breathing. I'm going to stop dreaming when I stop breathing. There's so much in this world to see and do. And you know how much I love people. We just went to Tahoe. We're going to Park City to visit friends and meet people. How sociable I am. And then we're going to Europe in September. One of my best friends, Tony Perry, he turns 70. So I want to spend time with him. We're taking him to Bermuda. So, I always look out. I tell people this is, we could end it this way if you want, but, I really am a visionary. I always look at where I'm going to be in 5 years. I think it's very important. Tony Robbins taught me this. So I look out where I want to be in 5 years. And then I decide what I want that to be. And then every morning when I get up, I do 5 minutes just because it's a long day, right? It's 5 minutes of going. I'm telling you, every morning I walk out here with a cup of coffee and I go, how the hell did I get here? How did this turn into this, right? I see every sunrise and every sunset. And I go, how did I get these amazing people in my life? And it's really just 5 minutes of really hard gratitude and being grateful for the life I have. And I'm also grateful for all the things that I had to go through, all the divorce I had, the being $2.5 million in debt. If I wasn't $2.5 million in debt, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would have never been partners with Kerry Fakes. There wouldn't have been a Stone Bay.
Right.
I'd be living in cold weather with you. And this is what
I actually love cold weather.
5 minutes of gratitude, and then 5 minutes of where I want to be in 5 years. And I think of it every morning, and they're like pictures. I want to be in Spain. I want to be in Greece. I want to see the Northern Lights. I want to live in Greece for a month. I want to live in a different country. I actually just started visionary in this. I want to live in a different country in my 60s for 30 days, 30 days at a time, and then move to a different country and live there for 30 days. Because I think I got a lot to share and I got a lot to learn. So that's really a 15-minute process of the morning. But I'm telling you, when I did that, when I started doing that, now it's been 5 years. We've gone a couple years. When I look out 5 years, I think if it gets in your subconscious and you think about these things every single day of what you want and where you want to be, it's going to come years faster. And the things that I was dreaming about in my plan 5 years ago, it came in about 3 years. Now, it was really weird because part of that dream was buying a $100 million apartment building, which I ended up buying a $75 million. But it was going to the Bahamas and the BVIs with my friends and renting a hotel room and renting a boat to go out on the dinner with. Didn't even know I was going to own the boat, right?
Right.
On the boat that we go out to dinner on now. So, that's the little overview of and every single morning starts with that. There's not a morning, because I just think it's the most important thing in my life to have a vision, to be grateful, thankful, be grateful for wherever you are. And if you are in a bad situation, I just tell people, work on getting your way out. There's better times. And if you are in a bad situation, it was meant to be. You shouldn't be there. Someone's telling you that, here I'm putting you in a bad situation, because if you stay in this situation, it's only going to be worse. Because I can tell you, when I was married, I left the situation because it was bad. And if I would have stayed, it would have just got worse. And if I would have stayed with my partners 11 years ago, it went really bad then. And I would too. Maybe if I stayed with those partners 3 more years, I would have been $5 million in debt, right? So when something doesn't work out for somebody, make quick decisions. And another hard thing to do, make a decision. Don't sit there and ponder it over 2 and 3 months. Everything's going to be okay. How many crazy situations have you been in, Nick, right? It all works out. Just because it's bad, it's just all a matter of time. Everything always works out in life.
So I think we can end it with that. I think I'll say this. Do you believe life happens for us?
Do I believe in what, Nick? Do I what?
Life happens for us, not to us. Meaning, bad things happen. It looks.
Wait, say that slow. Happens for us,
not to us. Yeah, because kind of like, even though we're in a bad situation,
it does happen for us. But let's not get into this bullshit where I'm driving to Walmart and I'm going to get the first parking spot just because I start thinking about it, right?
No, that's not what I meant. That's what. That's
all right, you got to put your ass to work.
What I mean is, like, when you're in a bad situation, it's bad in the moment.
Thank you. Yep. Yes.
Right.
And there's a reason
for us, because it's telling us, like you said, to get the heck out.
Yep. Yeah. I just had a friend text me the other day, and she was telling me how awesome this guy was. Right. This guy's awesome. Oh, I had to hear about this shit for 3 months. How awesome is, I'm happy for her, right? She's got an awesome guy. Well, she texted me 3 days ago. The guy broke up with her, treating her like shit, and she's a fucking mess now, right? She's depressed, right? And all upset. And I'm like, look, what if you went another year or 5 years when you're going to be, I don't even know how old she is. She's probably around 50. What if this guy stayed with you until you were 56 years old and you got to start over with a new boyfriend then? Be grateful, thankful. I'm not upset at my wife. I've never, you can ask anybody in my circle, I've never been upset at my wife. It just didn't work. We just shouldn't have been together. And I hope that she's doing well, because I'm kicking ass, right? So I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. But, I mean, that's a great conversation. When something's not good for me, I get out of it and I move on.
Right.
And that's the thing you do and learn, because it's like a stripper pole with butter on it, right? You want to keep hanging onto that pole. Even though you want to get to the top, it's like the problem is the butter, right? And you just can't get to the top. Get off the pole and move to another pole. Have fun, love life, bring energy, hang out with Nick Tang. Tony Perry told me, if you don't got 5 guys in your circle that inspire you, get 5 new friends. I can tell you, I got rid of more than 30 friends the first year of COVID, because they were Democrats and Republicans and all this bullshit. We had a virus. I didn't know what the freak was going on, right? No one knew what to do. We had to figure it out. And all it was is bashing, because, it wasn't fun not leaving the house, but we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And you got me up on a roof. You probably didn't see that one, but I was going to do a 5-minute video that turned into an hour and a half, because I was telling people just a moment in time. COVID was 3 years ago it started.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
But I think your life changed completely.
My life changed. Unfortunately, I had friends that I know that died from COVID, and it was horrible. But it was a moment in our history where the world changed with COVID. And for me, Steve Lloyd, I was in a office up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and my whole life changed forever. And values of real estate went up. I cashed out. I made millions and millions and more than I could ever imagine. And then I bought the yacht. I bought the boat, and it's kind of funny. I just keep pushing life. When I bought the yacht 2 years ago in December, I told my friends, we're going to Exumas. I'm like, where the hell's Exumas? I'm like, it's all the way down in the Bahamas, down near Turks and Caicos. They're like, You can't go there on your first yacht trip. You got to go to you got to go down to the Keys. You got to take a short run. I'm like, come on, man. Let's go live this shit. Let's go live life. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we were born to do, to live this fulfilled life and go meet people and travel and different personalities. You see all the freaking people I get along with. Right. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, purple, green, purple. Yeah, I get along with everybody, man. As long as you're a good person and you want to help other people. That's why I've always envied you. You've been around just as long as I have, right? Still helping people, right? Not trying to make a whole lot of money, just pay the bills when we're teaching, right? Because, you do these events, it can make money, but it's not the big money.
Right. It's the investment.
But just sharing your story. Everyone's got a story. Everyone in life's got a story. That's why you can't judge anybody. I very few times, maybe over the past 2 years, I've told 15 times that my dad left when I was 3, but I don't want to think people that I'm sitting up on this pedestal, right? I mean, I got my boat, right? I got my other boat and I got 2 cars. That's what I got. I don't need anything else in my life. I got a great girlfriend. I got my properties in this area. I don't want this big house with 26 rooms. What am I going to do with 26 rooms? I need a bedroom, I need a kitchen, and I need a living room. And that's what I got. I don't need anything else. I want to travel the world, and I want people to live their best life. That's why I name, I can't tell you, you can't really see, but I'm on the water in a marina, but in the back of my stern, the back of the boat, I had to learn all these boat terms, Nick. In the back of my boat, there's a park. And then on the other side of the park, it's water again. And It's a park. And I mean, hundreds of people walk by every day. And they take a picture of that, my best life.
Right.
And I yell out I said, make sure you live your best life. And they're like, thank you. Because people need to be inspired. Because why do they need to be inspired? Because life is so damn hard. Right. It's not easy, but you got to get around like-minded, positive people that are moving forward. And fulfill your life dreams and figure out why you're here.
So, Steve, before we wrap it up, what kind of people or who do you want to reach out to you?
Nobody. Yeah.
To the mentoring thing, where do people find out about it? Or the
I don't mentor.
That you're going to do?
Well, just you can find me on Facebook, Steve Lloyd. It's a blue circle, Steve Lloyd, my signature. Really not my signature, but it looks like it's my Steve Lloyd. Just send an IM there with your email address. I've been thinking about your email address, and I'll put you on the list. I'll respond. I got it. So just go to Facebook, IM me your email address. Keep it short. I want to know your life story. I'll put you on the list. So I think this year we're going to do a gladiator. We'll probably have some kind of lottery. I'll have to interview to make sure you qualify to come. And then, I don't know if you remember, I did something about 4 years ago in King of Prussia where it was 100 tickets and that was it. And I gave them away for $100 a piece. And I'll tell you, real estate mom was there. A bunch of people that really stayed connected. It's when I started to meet Hone. That's kind of where I met Hone. And, that was just a simple one-day event, but a lot of connections came out of that. And, if I'm going to love myself, I love that I can connect a lot of people. I do a lot of interchanging with people that need help and connect in partnerships and getting people to meet each other. So that's a gift that you have, right? Your events, you put a lot of people together so they can meet each other. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So, I'll let people know where I am. I'll let them know when I'm going to Tony Robbins. I'll let them know where I'm going to an event. I'll let them know when I'm going to do Gladiator. And I really think I'm thinking about doing a big event in November.
November of this year. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, if you need help marketing it or putting it together or anything like that.
It'll be sold out in 5 minutes.
Well, how big were you talking about?
200 people will be sold out in 24 hours.
Okay, that's true. Well, anything I can do to help.
I have a friend that, when I post on social media, I'll go blah, 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 and I get like 150 likes. He calls me up. He's like, dude, You're the only person that said that you went to the bathroom on Facebook and you got 200 likes. So I am very grateful for the following and the people that want to learn, and the people that listen to my message, because I truly want to help you live your best life.
So let's leave it at that. So that's
You're the best, man. I'm so glad you asked me to be on your first podcast. I really appreciate it. Keep in touch. I wish you all the success in the world. You're a phenomenal person. Even though we don't talk to each other, I do. I mean, I really think about you, and I love seeing the family pictures, and be good. Okay. Be healthy.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.